Hi everybody, welcome to tonight's class. I'm just giving everybody a little bit of time to join and then we will jump in. If you can just let me know if you can hear me clearly, just so I know my sound is good. I am also just trying to join you in the comments so that I can see any questions. Okay, so I'm just battling to get onto the comments, so I cannot see if my sound is good. I'm so sorry about that. I will have it in 2 seconds for you. There we are. Okay, I am with you in the comments. So, if it is your first time joining us for a live class, thank you for joining us and welcome. So tonight we are going to do a Back to Basics Vinyl 101 class, and we will be making a custom keyring and a vinyl bookmark. So the keyring, I'm going to be using UV resin. That is completely optional. You do not have to do that, and I think that will appeal to a lot of our more advanced users. You don't have to do it though, it's just a nice little extra. So I can see a lot of people joining. Thank you so much. So I actually curated this class because we've just had East Coast Radio House and Garden Show and we had a lot of new members buying machines. So I hope that this class is going to be beneficial to you. We do them every Thursday. So this one was a little bit delayed. I am very apologetic and I appreciate everybody waiting for us to get to it. So we do these every Thursday night and they range from beginner to pro classes and there's always something exciting happening. So as always, this class is proudly sponsored by Cricut and Logitech, and let's jump into it. So we're going to start on Design Space. I can see you've got a black screen there. Ah, there we are, it's up. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. And it is actually a very simple design, so it's going to have 3 different colors and we're going to be keeping our keyring and our bookmark the same. So if I go a little bit fast or there's anything that you are stuck on, you're more than welcome to leave your questions in the comments, and if I don't get to it, then one of the lovely admins will. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do for any project is have a template that you're going to work on. So what I did is I measured my keyring and I measured my bookmark. So if you look at the bookmark, it's not the exact shape, but that's completely fine because I'm not creating a complete layer that's going to cover it basically. So it's pieces that I'm going to sort of piece together onto it. So to create these templates, what you're going to do is you're going to insert a shape that's as close to your item as possible. So if I was working on a shirt, what I would do is I would work out the size that I want the decal, and I would put a square in and I would resize it to that size. Okay, so we are working with a rounded square and a circle. So our circle, we are going to change that to 5 centimeters because that is the size of the keyring. So what I also like to remember, and it's something that I just remember in my head when I'm doing the design, is that in the center of the keyring at the top you're going to have a hole. So try not to do anything that is heavy on the top. So what I mean by that is if you have a look at my keyring here, you will see that I don't have the main part of the design at the top of the keyring, I just have little dots. So that's just something to keep in mind when doing your design. Then I'm also going to change our rounded square, and this one, if I look at it, was 15 by 2.5. So to be able to change it independently, I'm going to click on the little unlock. I'm going to make my width 2.5 and I'm going to make my height 15. Okay, so now I have my base templates, but now if I say make it, what's going to happen is my machine is going to want to cut these shapes. So what I'm going to do is I click on it, and here you can see I have the option to change my operation, and I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to click on guide. What that's going to do is that's going to give me a guide that I can work on my canvas, but it's not actually going to cut when I say make it. So I'm going to do the same for this one. And then I'm going to duplicate this. So this is a step that you can do later on. I'm doing it now because I know that I'm going to need it. So I'm just going to stick that over there. I have my templates. And now we can start creating. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for an image. I'm going to look for a half sunflower. I see Pavisha's here, and he is professing to be everyone's best friend. We love you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so you can see I have a half sunflower, and I'm just going to sort of put these where I want them. So I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to flip that. So you can flip it manually, or if it's easier for you to do it with that. I actually can't find that. So design space has updated, but I'm sure I will figure that out in a minute. Okay, so I just want 3 of them. I did want this one to be a little bit bigger. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for dots. So this was just a little abstract extra that I added in. So here I looked for, I think, spots or dots. That was it. Okay, so these we want to change the color. So you can see next to your operation you've got a little block, and it is black. We're going to change it to white. Oopsie, Control Z. And we're just going to resize this and sort of put it where we want it to be. So this one, I'm pretty sure I flipped it. Okay, that's good. Then we're going to duplicate that. So it doesn't matter if it's exactly where I need it to be. I can now go later on and I can change it manually when I put it together, basically. So as long as I know everything is going to fit, it doesn't matter if it's exactly lined up to where it needs to be. So this one, I'm going to flip it like that. So you can see I'm using the little icons in the top to be able to flip it horizontally and vertically. Okay, and I am just going to resize these just a little. So you can see every time I try to click on a sunflower, I sometimes miss and I get my template instead. So another way you can work with it is you can actually click on it in your sidebar, and that's going to give you a little bit more control. So I'm going to click on this one and I'm going to say duplicate, and this is where my extra template came in. So we're going to flip this back. Okay, and you can see that it is above it, so that's good. I'm going to resize that. And I'm just going to position that to where I want it to be. Okay, so this is a very important thing to remember when you are working with your slice function. So if I select both of these and you look at the bottom, you see slice is grayed out, which means that I can't use it. And the reason I can't use it is because you can only slice 2 layers at a time. So you might be looking at it and thinking, okay, but you have 2 items. But if I click on my sunflower in the sidebar and I click on that little arrow, you can see I've actually got 2 different layers that make up that item. So what I have to do is I have to duplicate this so that I have 2 circles. I'm just going to select everything. I'm going to say align, center horizontally, center vertically. Now I know that both of my circles are exactly in the same place. They are where I need them to be. I have lost my sunflower though. Okay, there's my sunflower. I'm just going to reposition it again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one layer of my sunflower, and I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to select one of the circles. Let's just ungroup that. Okay, and now you can see that my slice is available and I can use it. So we can get rid of the pieces that we don't want. And then we can do the same for the center of the sunflower using the other circle. Hello to everybody that is just joining. So we've just been going through the design process. It's quite a simple design. If you've missed anything, if you want to go back and watch, these will be uploaded to the Cricut South Africa YouTube, and you can always go back and watch them there. Okay, so now I'm going to want another set of dots. So we're going to duplicate those dots, and this is going to go somewhere here, not on that side. We want it on the other side. So again, if it doesn't fit exactly where I'm putting it, I can always adjust when I actually make the keyring. Okay, now we're going to add in our font. So to do that, our text. So to do that, you're going to click on text. And I'm going to want 2 text boxes, and the reason for that is I want to be able to have the B sort of to the side, and if I do not create 2 text boxes, it's going to sort of be where Design Space puts it, if that makes sense. So we're going to put your B happy, and now we're going to change our font to what we want it to be. So you can see here I have the font name, and it's going to open up the side menu, and you can see that it's got all of the different fonts, and it actually gives you a preview of what your word is going to look like in that font. So I went with this BFC Fantasy Connected. I think this is such a beautiful font. Okay, we're going to change that one. We're going to sort of position them where we want them to be just for now. We're going to group that. So remember, grouping is something that's going to work on your canvas. If I say make it now, B is going to jump to a different place on the mat, and happy is going to jump somewhere else, and it's going to cut sort of in the best position that Design Space thinks. So grouping is only something that works on your mat. If I wanted to stay exactly like this, and I am going to show it to you, if I wanted to stay exactly like this when I cut it, I'm going to use the attach function. So that is something very important to remember. Okay, so we're going to resize this. I think that is good. Okay, so I'm going to change this to white so that you can see what I am saying with this next part. Okay, so if I look at the wording, you will see that the little section that comes off of the E, the little part that comes off of the H, so all of these little swirly bits, you can hardly see them. So when I look at this, it sort of tells me that when I cut this, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either it's going to be so small that it becomes difficult for me to transfer and cut it, or it's literally just going to cut a little slit in the vinyl, and that's not going to work for me. So to counteract that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on the little, what is it, a crayon. So I found, here's our rotate. I told you I'd find it, just give me a minute. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. And here you can see we've got effects, offset. So I'm going to click on offset, and I'm going to give it a very, very, very small offset. So the offset I usually use is 0.015 to 0.018, so between those parameters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 0.018. I'm going to have a look. I'm going to see, does it still look like the font that I want it to look like? And then if it does, if I'm happy with how it looks and I think it can be a bit thicker, I'll start slowly increasing it until I sort of get it where I want it to be. So let's apply that. Let's change this to white so that you can see. So there it is once I have thickened it. So let me just zoom in a bit so you can see. So this is the font that I have, oopsie, wrong one. Have we got our, where's it, our offset. Okay, so that's the one I've thickened, and this is our original one. So you can see there's quite a difference in it. So you can delete that, and we're going to use that instead. Okay, so I'm actually not going to use attach because I use the offset. So what happens when you do an offset is it welds everything together. It becomes one item anyway. Okay, so what we can do is we can ungroup all of our sunflowers. Okay, we're going to get rid of our original designs. We'll delete that. Now what I'm going to do is all of the sunflowers that are on our bookmark, I'm going to cut them where they are so that we can sort of try to keep it sort of uniform. Okay, so then I'm going to attach. I'm going to select those three. I'm going to attach them. And then the dots. So I'm going to attach those. Okay, so we are ready to make it. So I'm going to say make it. And I'm going to be doing it on a mat, so I'm going to click on for any material. If I was using smart materials off of a mat, I would select without a mat. If I was making a card, I would obviously select that. And if I wanted to manually select for each of my different mats, I would obviously click on multiple ways. So I'm going to be doing on a mat for all of them. Okay, so we say confirm. We have a look at how we have it. So Design Space is always going to arrange it in a way that it thinks is best for the cut. So you can always go and you can manually change it so that it suits you. If you hold down the shift key, you can turn it so that it's not free turning. It turns at like certain degrees, and that makes it a lot easier to get perfectly straight. So there's just a little tip. So I'm turning everything sideways because I want to try and save some space. So this is what I mean. So this is free form, and it becomes a lot harder for me to line it up. If I hold down the shift key, you can see that it turns at certain angles. Okay, try and make sure it's on the mat first, and it just becomes a lot easier. Okay, so all of these are ready to be cut. We're going to say continue. We're going to put our machine on. That's very important. So Candace said that it's her first time with a project. She's just unboxed her Cricut, and she wanted to know why do we attach. So just to run through that again, if you have a look at the way that my designs were on the mat, so I think we are connected. I just want to go back to it so that I can show you. So what it does is wherever my pieces are on my canvas, so where I designed it, if I attach them, that's exactly the way they're going to cut. So there's multiple reasons you might want to do that. If you saw with our font, I had be as one word and I had happy as another word. That might be one reason you want to do it, so that you want to keep the words exactly where you had them. There we are, we're connected. So let me just show you here. No, that's not a good one. Let me show you here. Okay, so if I did not attach this, so you can see that that's for our bookmark, if I didn't attach it, then these would have probably been closer together. It just would have been a little bit harder for me to transfer it, weed it. So my preference was to have them exactly where I designed them on my template. So for me, that's the main reason to attach. Yeah, it's just to suit the template that I designed. Okay, so I'm going to be working with smart vinyl. So this is a vinyl 101 class, and I am going to be talking about the different vinyls that you get. But I obviously, I do have a plan. So it's going to take some time for the UV resin to dry, so I thought we could talk about the different vinyls then. So before we get to that, I'm going to be using smart vinyl, and you will see if you say browse all materials, there are a lot of different materials that your machine can cut. So I'm not sure if you can see on the pop-up. I'm just trying to see on the screen if you can actually see that. I don't know if you can see it, so I'm just going to explain anyway. So if you click on browse all materials, you'll see all the different materials. Next to, like sort of right on the end, you'll see that some of them have a little C. So what that C indicates is that that is a Cricut material. So that specific cut setting has been designed with that Cricut material in mind. So using Cricut materials will obviously give you the best cut. This is not just something we say to sell materials. It's a tried and tested thing. You are going to get the best cuts because your settings are designed specifically for these materials. So it's important to know what vinyl you're working with so that you can get the best cut. I'm going to be working with smart vinyl, so you'll see that I have smart vinyl permanent here. That is going to be the first one that I cut. So I'm going to select that. So you've also got something where you can adjust your pressure. You can say more pressure, default pressure, less pressure. It's always advisable to do a test cut. Okay, I can see now that you can see my settings. So it's advisable to always do a test cut. I would suggest doing a little star because that has points, it has curves. And then you can test to see if the setting that you've used is right for the material that you're using. If you find that it has cut too deeply, you can click on less pressure. If you find that it hasn't cut deep enough, you can click on more pressure. Also, don't be scared to experiment. Just because it says it is good for a certain material doesn't mean that you're going to get the best cut using that setting. So don't be scared to experiment. If it's not cutting exactly as you expected, try something different. Okay, so we're going to jump over to our desk. Okay, and you can see I have my machine open. I'm going to be using a standard grip mat. And I have my keyring and my bookmark here. So I'm just going to put those aside. And to start, we are going to be using, as I said, Smart Vinyl Permanent. So you'll see on the back of the Cricut materials, it actually tells you, so I don't know if you can see that, it actually tells you what vinyl it is. So there's another great reason to use Cricut materials because there's no more guessing. It takes the guesswork out of it. Okay, so if I look on my mat, I can see I need at least 20 centimeters of vinyl, so I'm just going to cut this down slightly. And this is not a necessary step, it just makes me more comfortable. I'm going to uncover our mat. And we're going to place our vinyl onto our mat. Okay, so I like to use the brayer. What this does is it makes sure that your material is properly adhered to your mat and there are no bubbles. Remember, if you have little bits stuck to your mat, like I do there, what's going to happen is as the blade cuts over it, the blade's going to jump and it's going to create a little kink in your design. So it's always best to have material that is nicely adhered. So Mumtaz has said, "Ooh, look at the Maker 4." Please do not compliment the Maker 4, because the first class we had with her, everybody was saying she was pretty, and she freaked out a little bit and decided that my scoring wheel was not going to work. And then as soon as the class was done, it worked perfectly. So we're not going to compliment her too much, please. She is beautiful though. If you have a Maker 4, yay, congratulations. If you don't have one, what are you waiting for? It is such a beautiful machine. Okay, so that's going to cut quickly, and then I'm going to get my other materials ready. So I spoke about using smart vinyl. So this is smart vinyl. It will always say smart vinyl on it, whether it is an iron-on or whether it is a sticker vinyl. So below the smart vinyl, you'll see that it says permanent vinyl, which means that this is obviously a permanent vinyl. If it was a removable vinyl, it would say removable there. So just to give you a comparison, this is a premium vinyl. So this is what's called a premium vinyl, and you'll see that it has no smart vinyl written on it. Okay, so let's just remove this. Okay, so always remove your mat from your material and not your material from your mat. The reason for that, and I'm going to take another piece of vinyl to show you. Okay, so this is one that I haven't cut. If I remove my material from the mat, you can see I'm bending it. So what can happen is your pieces can actually jump out of place, and then that's going to be an entire cut wasted, which we don't want. So Susie says, you should see my mats. I use sticky tape to hold my vinyl down now. So I think we've all gotten to that point before where we kind of use tape or masking tape or whatever it is to keep our vinyl down. And I must say, I used to do it myself until I learned how much it actually affects your cut. So you'll end up getting a lot of sort of jagged edges and jumps. And so if there is one consumable that I absolutely must have at all times, it is new mats. So I must admit that. Okay, so I'm just measuring this. I need about 5 centimeters. I am using scissors and not my, what is it called? A guillotine, a cutter, a trimmer. It's called a trimmer. Okay, so we're going to be using about 22 again. Okay. And I keep all of my scraps. So you might be wondering, okay, so what is the difference between smart vinyl and premium vinyl? So premium vinyl has to be put onto a mat. You cannot cut it without a mat. Smart vinyl, you can actually feed it into your machine without a mat, which is great if you want to do longer cuts. So I think it cuts up to 3.6 meters, one single cut, which is absolutely amazing. So you might be asking, then why are you cutting it on a mat? So that for me is a personal preference. When I am doing small designs, I would rather cut it on my mat because I keep all of my scraps, if you will. So here you can see I have it, and I'm putting it into a baggie, and then later on when I do another small design, I'll just go and I'll look through my scraps, see what I have, and I'll see what I can use. So for me, that's a personal preference. Another thing to note with your smart vinyl is if you want to cut without a mat, it has to be the full length. So you can't cut a small piece and then put that into your machine. So that is something to note. So Candace asked a very good question. How do you clean your mats? We don't recommend cleaning your mats, and again, this is not just something that we say because it's fun. This is something that we have tried and tested so that you don't have to. Your mats are consumables and they will degrade over time. They will lose their stickiness. So a lot of people have suggested washing it. For me personally, I've never found this to work. Every time I've washed a mat or attempted to wash a mat, it's lost its stickiness, and that was the end of it. So the best way to care for your mat is to make sure that it is always covered. So as soon as you're done with it, cover it with the plastic that came with it. Another thing you can do is before you take the plastic off for the first time, you can actually stick a little sticker on the outside, and that's going to tell you which way is the right way. And it does make a difference, and that is important. So I've had it before where I have stuck it the wrong way on a mat and it's actually got stuck to the mat so that it damages when I take it off. And when I take it off, it actually has taken some of the stickiness with it. So it is important which way you put it on for that reason. And obviously it gets finger marks, it gets dust, it gets all sorts of things. So if you're putting that onto your mat, it's going to make the stickiness disappear quicker. And then obviously with it being exposed to air, if you leave it exposed to air for long periods of time, it will obviously lose its stickiness. So for me, the number one way to care for your mats is to care for them before they get to that point, basically. Okay, so we have that one. Okay, now we are going to be using a foil vinyl. So Cricut has normal vinyls and it also has specialty vinyls. So specialty vinyls are like your foils, your shimmers, stuff like that. And they will obviously need different cuts compared to your normal vinyl. So your foil vinyl is going to need a foil vinyl cut setting. It's not a permanent cut vinyl setting, even though it is a permanent vinyl. So Susie says her dog hair loves her mats. I must admit I'm exactly the same, but mine's with the cats. So I've actually had my cat sit on my mat before. I was very unimpressed, but I do still love her. Okay, so I'm just cutting another piece of vinyl. And you can see this is the foil vinyl. It is beautiful. It's like a metallic vinyl. Very beautiful. And you can see all the bubbles until I use my trusty brayer. And then bubbles gone. Beautiful. Okay, so for this I'm going to be using, so this is tried and tested for me, I'm going to be using the textured metallic setting. Now remember I said don't be afraid to experiment with the different cut settings. You might find one that is a lot better for you. So that's what I've done with this. Sorry, I was just catching up on the chat. Okay, so we're going to start to weed this while that cuts. It's going to be our last cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our inside bits. Okay. So that is like all your little pieces inside of your letters. Okay, now this is a very important thing to remember, especially as a beginner. So let's see if I can pull my machine forward for you. Hope I don't pull the plug out. Okay, so what you're going to want to do when you're cutting a material that you don't really know, you're going to want to actually test it first. So I'm going to test over here to see that it's cut through. So I'm just pulling it away and it looks like it's cut, I hope. It's a little bit difficult because I have my cut right at the top, but it looks good. Okay, so if it didn't cut through and I wanted it to cut again, I would just press the go button again, but because it's cut through, I'm happy. I'm going to unload that. Okay, we can put that off. We've got all of our pieces. Put that back a bit. Okay. Okay, so let's continue weeding this. So we're going to just be taking all of these little middle pieces from all of them, and then we're going to be removing this. So you can see that when I weed, I pull it back almost on itself. And this helps me in two ways. Number one, I usually get the best result from that. And number two, before I've pulled it up completely, I can already see when pieces are lifting. And I can just hold them down with my weeding tool. So you can see I'm moving quite slow. And I'm just having a look as I go. When I get to parts that are sort of hooked in there, I use my weeding tool just to help it out. And there we have it. So I see that I missed a couple of the inside pieces. I don't think you can see it because it's white on white with light shining onto it. And what I've done here is I've folded this so that it's sticky side up, and then I can just stick my little weeded bits onto it, and it makes it easier. Look at that. Super cool. Okay, so we're just going to carry on weeding all of this. I'm going to use the exact same process, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to try to talk to you about some other vinyls. So I've told you about permanent vinyl. I've told you about smart vinyl. So for me, I personally love smart vinyl. I love the quality. I love how long it lasts. It's definitely my go-to, so I love, love, love it. Some people prefer to work with the normal permanent vinyl, and that's their choice as well. So that would be good for applications that you want to last a long time. So what's going to happen if you try to pull this off of the item is it's actually going to leave a glue residue behind. So you also get something called a removable vinyl. Now, removable vinyl is nice and sticky. It's not just going to fall off of items. It lasts a long time. It's a great vinyl. But if you removed it from something, it wouldn't leave that sticky residue behind. Sorry, I see Candace says that her husband and kids think that she's crazy because her face is so close trying to see what's going on. I'm so sorry. So here you can hopefully see it better with this one. I am sort of rolling it back on itself. I'm just pulling it backwards. And then what I see from the side is if it lifts, I can see it as it starts lifting, and then I can just kind of hold it down. Okay, so removable vinyl is not going to leave a residue behind when you take it off. So this is great for stuff like wall decals. If you want a car decal that you can take off later without ruining the paint, then removable vinyl is great for that. So you'll see we are going to be using UV resin on our keyring. If you were using UV resin or something to seal it, then removable vinyl is also a great option. So your permanent vinyl is going to be for things that you want to last a long time and you don't plan on removing them, obviously, unless you want to change it because it's gotten old. And your removable vinyl is going to be for things that you want to change up often. It's great for use on cardstock. It's great for any sealed items. Okay, so this one I can see I'm going to have some little niggly pieces. So I'm just going to get it in a position. So here I can see from this side that it is lifting, so I just hold it down. And then another thing you can do is you can also sort of maneuver it so that it doesn't put any unnecessary pressure on your little pieces. If that makes sense. Okay, that one came up, so we're just going to hold it down. And you can see that it's cut beautifully. It's just the technique that you have to weed it. So it's important to remember that a lot of the issues that we encounter are down to technique. So don't be hard on yourself. Just adjust and try again. That's my biggest motto in crafting in life, is just adjust and try again. Okay, so we shared something on the group today. Which transfer tape should I use? This one has ink on it. I don't know why, but this is Cricut standard grip transfer tape. So any smooth vinyls, I'm going to use my standard grip. And any vinyls that have texture to them, so like your shimmer vinyl, your textured metallic, for those I'm going to use the strong grip. So you don't want to use strong grip tape on your smart vinyl, you don't want to use it on your permanent vinyl. What's going to happen is going to get stuck to it's going to get stuck to the transfer tape, and it's not actually going to transfer to your item. Okay, so here is my acrylic blank. I'm going to remove the little top cover. So this has like a brown sticky plastic cover. So what I do here, and I do this with all of my acrylic blanks, if you're going to be making keyrings, these are also great for, somebody had reusable price tags for a market, which I thought was amazing. And then another thing is, if you want to do those little, what do you call them? Those little, you know, like 0 to 3 months, the little clothing tags, so that you can obviously hang them in the cupboard. These are also great. So there's some ideas. So what I do is at the top, just above the hole, that's where I start to remove it. And the reason I do that is, if I happen to scratch my acrylic, it's going to be hidden by the little keyring loop anyway, so it's not a stress. Okay, so I'm just removing the top piece. So I like to leave the back piece intact, and the reason for that is if any of the resin by any chance leaks through onto the back, then I can just pull it off when I remove that. So unless of course you're going to be putting something onto the back and then doing resin there. Okay, so there is my keyring. I'm going to start with that first, so that while that's drying we can do our bookmark. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just separate the pieces so that when I'm transferring it, it is easier and I'm not picking up pieces that I don't want. Okay, and then what I like to do, so your transfer tape is reusable. You don't have to use it once and throw it away. So I like to look at what the biggest piece in my decal is, and then I'll cut a piece that can stick over that, and then I can use it for all of my pieces. Okay, so if I started with this piece, what would happen is I kind of wouldn't know where it's supposed to go. I wouldn't 100% know where it fits in. But if I start with our beautiful sunflower, then I know it lines up to the edges and it's a lot easier for me. So that is what I'm going to start with. Okay, so we put our transfer tape on top. So I see everybody in the comments talking about their horrors with the strong grip transfer tape. I think we've all been there. It's not impossible to transfer it when you make those mistakes. It is just a lot harder. Okay, so you can see I am using my scraper. I'm using the extra large one because I'm a bit bougie. So I'm just going from the front and the back. And then exactly like with your removing your material from your mat, we're going to turn it upside down and we're going to roll this away. So you'll see that I kind of turn it back on itself. You can see I've kind of folded it, and then what I do is I roll it away, and if I see that there's any pieces lifting, I go back, I press down, and I roll again. And this method has always worked for me. And then you'll see as well that I adjust the position. So you can see now I've turned it, and then I start transferring it that way. This little piece. There we are. And there we are. Okay, so we're going to try to get this straight. Okay, oopsie. No, don't do that. Don't let go of it, because now I have it on there. So don't let go of it. That is a very important lesson. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adapt and I'm going to overcome. So I'm going to leave this on here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the edge. Don't be like me. Do as I do, not as I say. I mean, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so very important lesson. Don't drop your transfer tape, because then your decal will be where it is. So we're going to transfer this in the exact same way. And the exact same way. Okay, and you can see this one also is a little bit off, so I'm going to use my, what do you call this, knife tool, and I'm going to slice it, but I'm going to apply my UV resin first, because that's going to give it a little bit of strength. So I'm just taking my one piece here, because this looks a bit lost. Is it that one? That one. There we are. Okay, so I just added in another little piece there. Adapt and overcome. No matter what life throws at you, figure out a way and make it work. Mistakes are not the end, they're just a chance to try something different. Okay, so we have this piece down. Now, if I put the words onto it, what's going to happen is anywhere that I already have vinyl, it's going to create a little lump. So if you were working with only vinyl and you didn't want to use the UV resin, I would suggest then slicing your words out of your what is this thing called? Sunflower. Out of your sunflower. Okay, so I have my UV resin. I have an egg storage thing that I stole from the fridge. And I'm going to be using a wooden stick. So some people like to use those little, what do you call them? Those little silicone brush things. I find that I get the best result using literally a little stick. The one thing I did not bring was a lighter. So what you would use to get rid of the bubbles is a lighter. So heat helps you get rid of the bubbles. So what we're going to do is we're just creating a very small platform that we can put our words onto. Okay, so you can see I've just put a very little bit, and I'm going to be using my stick. So what you do is you touch the top of the resin and you kind of hover. So I'm not rubbing completely against my acrylic. I'm actually hovering on my resin. So the resin, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but the resin actually gets stuck to your wooden stick. So I'm hovering and I'm just dragging over the top of it. Like so. And what this is going to do is it's just going to create a flat platform that I can put my second layer onto. So I'm not going to go all over the keyring because it's not necessary. I can go in and I can fill in just now. And you can see that it goes quite far. You don't need a huge amount, sort of as coverage, if you will. Okay, so we're going to give that a couple seconds to self-level because UV resin does self-level. Layla says it sounds like a mug coming up, adapt and overcome, or was it adapt and get it done? It's adapt and overcome, but I absolutely love adapt and get it done because both of them are applicable. Okay, so I'm just going to spray that with a little bit of alcohol just to get rid of some of the bubbles because I don't have my lighter. So what you would do is you would actually just take the lighter and very gently light over it. Okay, so I sprayed it with some alcohol. That also helps the bubbles to rise. Oh, and it smells a lot. Okay, give that a couple seconds. While we wait for that, I'm going to get my Be Happy decal ready. So Amy says, I totally did that on purpose to throw out some life lessons. I love that you couldn't hear the panic in my voice because I absolutely panicked for a full 10 seconds there. So I love that you couldn't tell, but I totally panicked. I did not mean to do that. Yes, so Karen asked, can you use a heat gun? You 100% can use a heat gun. The only thing I would be mindful of with a heat gun is obviously it blows air. So if it is a very strong heat gun that pushes out sort of a lot of air, I would just be mindful of that. Okay, so we're going to stick this. I mean, it has some bubbles, but it's fine. I don't have... Okay, so we're going to stick this under our UV lamp. So that is what UV resin is. It dries under a UV light. So you will need a UV lamp or you will need sunlight. So it does also work under sunlight. So while we're waiting for that, we're going to start on our bookmark. So again, it has a plastic cover. You want to remove that. I promise you there was panic. there was a lot of panic. I think we like these classes to go perfectly, but I think it's also nice for people to see that, you know, we all make mistakes. It's not a beginner thing. We all make mistakes. We all do things that we weren't 100% happy with. I think it's important that you just keep going. Yes, more life lessons. I think it's important that you just keep going and have fun with it. You know, what's the absolute worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to have a little bit of wasted material, but you're going to have learned something. So, and I learned that I shouldn't drop the transfer tape. So Candace, I am actually a little bit stressed with my UV lamp. So how long you let it go for is going to depend on how strong your UV lamp is. So mine is very, very old and it seems to be dying a bit. So I'm having to go a lot longer. There are a couple things to remember though. So my issue can be one of two things. Either my UV resin is old or my UV lamp is old. I will only know which one it is once I replace one of them. So UV resin can get old and then it will stay tacky and it won't sort of cure properly. Yeah, so unfortunately I don't have a solid answer on that. You would have to just test it and see. One of the things that I can tell you is that UV resin is quite forgiving, especially if you're doing another layer. You can actually make a hole in it to pop a bubble. You can touch it and get a fingerprint on it, and then that fingerprint will disappear when you put the second layer on. So it is quite forgiving. But yeah, there's no solid answer to that, unfortunately. You're going to have to test with your UV resin and your UV lamp and see. Okay, so I'm just maneuvering this to get all of our little tiny pieces. You can see some of them are coming up, and then I just press down and then roll. I would recommend going with the strongest UV lamp possible, and the reason for that is if you're wanting to do this on a larger scale, you don't want to sit for 6 minutes, 7 minutes drying UV resin. You want to get it out as soon as possible, especially if you're doing more. So I would suggest going for one of the stronger UV lamps with a bigger space underneath. So I've got a very basic one. I don't know, yeah, you can see it. I've got a very basic one. It's yeah, not very strong. And it's got different settings that I don't 100% understand. So I don't profess to be a professional when it comes to UV lamps, but I would suggest going for like the biggest one possible, and just roll with that. Especially if you want to do it as a business, rather invest now in a nice proper one, rather than having to do it later. So I have a little piece there that I will transfer manually, but there we have it. And you also get these little UV lights, so I find that quite helpful if you're doing something small. Okay, so now we're going to line this up without dropping it. No pressure. Okay, so I've stuck down one side and I'm holding up the other side, and I'm just making sure that as I go it is where I want it to be, and then I'm kind of rubbing it down. And if it is not 100% where I want it to be, then what I can do is I can just cut it. So this is what I meant when I said you can adjust things. I can just cut it, and then I can position it where I want it to be, where I'm sort of happy with it, like so. Okay, then when I remove my transfer tape, I'm going to slide back the same way that I did, which you didn't get to see earlier because I panicked. So I'm going to stick that one over there. So the same way that I transferred it, rolling back on it like that, and then sticking it over there. I don't know what this black stuff is, sorry, I think it's ink. It's fine, it'll be fine. Okay, then we transfer our next piece. Okay, we're going to start with the little one. Because remember now, I've repositioned one of the flowers, so I have to reposition the center of the flower. And I must just say, so I have been trying to keep an eye on the comments, and please don't ever apologize for asking questions. That's why we do this. We want you to feel comfortable with your machine. We want you to be able to ask questions, to be able to engage. We've actually got such a beautiful community here of Cricut users, members, ambassadors that are also willing to share knowledge. So the whole point is to ask the questions, to engage, to have fun. We love it. We absolutely love it. It makes us feel like we're doing something meaningful. So please don't ever apologize for asking questions. Okay, so I'm just maneuvering it in a way that sort of makes sense to me. Okay, so I can see one of them's off, this one. So I'm just going to do that one individually. And stick that down. And there we have our beautiful bookmark. The last thing is our little dots. I must agree. So Layla says that the black is absolutely stunning. I love the black acrylic. Definitely one of my favorites. Okay, so I'm just transferring this. And with these dots, if you don't want to go through the hassle of transferring it, you can literally just do them one by one with your tweezers. I mean, there's no rule that says you can't do that, so if that's what you want to do, you can do that. Just obviously with something like your, what are these things called? Your sunflowers, those have lots of little pieces. You don't want to sit for hours transferring that piece by piece. There we are. Okay, so now we just need to position our little dotties. We are going slightly over. We're almost done though. I appreciate everybody bearing with me. Okay, so I am transferring these one by one. You can see I'm holding this edge up. Well, not one by one, but one section by one section. There we are. And there we have our beautiful bookmark. Absolutely love it. So the last thing I'm going to do for that is get a little tassel. And I'm going to put that through. Let's see, we're going to twist that. Kamal has joined us. Welcome, Kamal. I do hope you brought the Mari biscuits because I'm a little bit hungry. Okay, so I'm just trying to get this through. So what you can do is you can use your weeding tool to kind of just, or even your tweezers. Tweezers will work perfectly. Just to kind of get that through. Tweezers would have been better. Let's grab those. So I'm just grabbing it on that side. Oopsie, there we are. And then you just loop it through like so. And there we have a beautiful bookmark. Stunning. Okay, now we're going to finish off our keyring. Okay, so I think, yep, that's dry. Oopsie. Okay, I'm just exact same transfer process. If I see anything lifts, I just sort of roll down again and then press down on it. Okay. So we just got to make sure. There we are. And there we have our Be Happy. You can see it's, I mean, it's semi-smooth. I do wish I had my lighter so that I could get rid of any bubbles. So you'll see, if you look very carefully, I don't know if you can see it, but there are some bubbles in there, which obviously you don't want. So you do want to go over it with your lighter, just let the flame sort of touch it. That's going to help all of the bubbles come up and pop. Once that's happened, you're going to want to let it sit for about 5 minutes, and that's going to help those bubbles close up again, and everything's going to self-level. Obviously, we're a little bit pressed for time, so I am trying to move as quickly as possible. So yeah, and I did forget my lighter. I do apologize. Okay, there's our little dots. So we're just going to see which way the dots work best. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place down 3 of the dots, 3 of them, and then I'm going to lift that off. Wait, let's get that one down. Because where it was not suitable. So I've just transferred one on its own. Perfect. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm taking my craft knife, and this is not a step that you should have to do, but remember I have pieces that are over because I didn't hold it properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide down on the edge, and I'm just going to trim these pieces away. So sort of sliding down as I'm cutting helps it to not bend the vinyl. It just cuts, if that makes sense. So I'm sliding down as I'm cutting. Please be careful of your fingers though. I have done this many times before. There we are. Okay, so we're going to just finish off with the UV resin. I'm not going to show you the very end result because you did see how long it takes for it to dry. So I'm just going to show you how to put your last layer of vinyl on. Sorry, not vinyl, UV resin. So Candace, this torch is actually a UV light. Yeah, so this is not going to get rid of the bubbles. This is just going to help it to dry the UV resin. If you mean with the heat gun, then your biggest difference is your lighter is not blowing air out, so it's not going to blow your resin all over the place. Your heat gun obviously does blow resin out, sorry, not resin, air, does blow air out, so it could be a bit messy. Okay, so again, we're just going to put our resin in the middle. You can see, can you see? Let me just see if I can show you how much I've put on there. So you can see I've just put a little blob in the middle there. You can see it. It's just a little blob, and I'm actually going to drag that out. So this is dangerous because I don't want to make a mess. So I'm going to take it, and I'm hovering on top of it, and I'm going to drag that to the edge, and I'm going to pull it out over the edge. And what's going to happen, oopsie, there we are. What's going to happen is your resin's actually going to grab onto the edge. So you're not dragging it, you're hovering above it so that the resin gets stuck to the little tool that you're using, and you're just going to drag it outwards like so. So what you should see when you look at the side of it, which I can't show you, is smoothness. If you can see little gaps, you're going to see little gaps in the end result. Okay, so I'm just going to go and I'm going to do that all over quickly. And you can see I'm just repeating the process all over. Like so. So back to the question regarding the difference between using torch, heat gun, lighter. Honestly, my preferred method is a lighter, and specifically a click lighter. So not one of the lighters that you have to, I don't know what they're called. The reason for that is, you know, the ones that you have to go like that and like roll against the flint. What happens with those is pieces of the flint come off, and then as you go over your resin, those little tiny pieces of flint will actually fall out into your resin, and that's horrible. Okay, so I've done my whole bottom section, and I'm now going to start moving it up to the top and out over the sides. And I'm never actually touching the acrylic, so that is very important. You have to hover over the top of your UV resin. So what's going to happen if you put too much? I can see I need a little bit more, so always start with less and then add a bit more if you need to. What's going to happen if you add too much is it's going to flow over the sides and it's just going to be a big mess. So start small, increase if you have to. Ta-da. Okay, so when you go up towards this little hole at the top, there you do want to go closer to the resin because you don't want to have a big lump of resin around that hole. What's going to happen is when it starts to heat up, the resin's going to get thinner and it's going to leak into that hole and it's going to block the hole. So I think that's probably the only thing that you really have to be mindful of, is don't put too much around the little keyring hole at the top. So Mum has said it's a cigarette lighter. So I mean, I think all lighters are cigarette lighters, but you get the click ones that have that little electronic piece in it, and then you get the ones that work by, I don't know, rubbing a flint, caveman way. So you don't want the one with the flint, the one that has that rolling piece. Okay, so here I'm just using the tip to just get it around the hole. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it. So there are some bubbles. I'm going to do it with the lighter. It is a little bit lumpy, but remember, resin is self-leveling. So I'm going to leave this now for 5 minutes. I'm going to go and get my lighter once we're done. I'm going to pop all the bubbles and then I'm going to dry it. So remember, resin is self-leveling. You're not going to get it perfect when you're moving it around, but when you leave it, it's going to level itself out. It's going to close up those bubbles, and then it's going to look good. So we're just going to stick this over here for now, and I will just show you. Here is the sample one that I made, so you can see same. And both of them are absolutely gorgeous. Love them. And then our sample keyring. It's a little bit dusty. There is the sample keyring, and that is UV resin. You can see it's got a beautiful dome on it. And it is perfect. It reaches all the edges, and I followed the exact same process. So I'm going to let that go in the I'm going to let that go under the UV light once I've done the lighter thing, and then I will upload pictures of all of them side by side on the Facebook group tomorrow. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this class was very informative. I hope that you feel a lot more comfortable working with vinyl. And if you are more advanced and resin's your thing, then I hope that you feel a lot more comfortable working with that. I did keep you a little bit longer than I planned, and I do apologize, but I appreciate you all so much, and I can't wait to do this again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.